Now you may know this, it is 50 years pretty much this week since man landed on the moon, and a Leicester scientist says we need to send more humans into space to inspire the next generation of explorers.
Our reporter Giles Taylor has been to meet the woman who's hoping to follow in the footsteps of Neil Armstrong.
50 years ago this week, Neil Armstrong made one small step with huge implications. Suzie Imber wasn't even born, but 50 years on, she's heavily involved in the latest missions in space, and she says the moon landings continue to inspire.
I think what's interesting about the moon landings happening 50 years ago is that there's a generation of people who remember them really vividly, and for whom maybe this was their first experience of thinking about human spaceflight. And then, since then, there's been a generation of people who haven't had that inspiration. And so what I think is really interesting now is looking back on the impact the moon landings had on that generation, and looking forward for those of us that didn't experience those moon landings to what's going to happen in the next 10 or 20 years.
Suzie is still waiting to make her own giant leap into space after winning the BBC series Astronauts Have You Got What It Takes in 2017. As a standby for the European Space Agency, she has to be ready for a call-up at any time.
The thing is that there's no possibility to apply right now because the last round of applications was when Tim Peake applied in 2008, so 11 years ago now. And there's no indication about when the next opportunity will come up. So as soon as it does, I will be the first person to hand in an application form, and then we'll have to see what happens from there.
In the meantime, Suzie's attention is on the ongoing mission to Mercury. The Bepi Colombo probe launched last year, but she says the focus is beginning to shift back towards human exploration.
I think that in terms of human exploration of space, the next big milestone is going to be a return to the moon. It makes a lot of sense to go to the moon, even though in our minds people are thinking about Mars. So I think the next thing will be going to the moon, with a view, having done that, to heading for Mars in the next 30 years.
Giles Taylor, BBC East Midlands Today, Leicester.